Robin vs. Black Maria is easily the best fight in Wano so far. I say so far because even though I know I'm gonna get someone who says, "But Luffy hasn't even unlocked Gear 5 yet, bro," I think it's pretty clear that this is the best fight in Wano we've actually seen. Which means a lot in an arc or freaking saga at this point where half the fights happen off screen. Wano anime's been coming in clutch in that department. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the elements of any great anime fight and explain why Robin vs. Black Maria is currently the best fight in Wano. Be warned that this will contain manga spoilers. Before I get started, make sure to comment with your thoughts on Robin vs. Black Maria. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week in the next video. This week's comment goes to Illustrious Elucidation for sharing his prediction for Dr. Stone. If you'd like more One Piece and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. So before we look at the actual fight, let's just make sure we're on the same page about what makes a great fight. To be clear, this is not some kind of plug and chug formula like you probably learned in math class. This is just a list of factors to consider as you discuss what works and what doesn't work in a fight. Generally speaking, there's 5 factors to consider when you look at a fight: matchup, build-up, tension, execution, and impact. Matchup is exactly that, the particular matchup of a fight. Some matchups are just bound to lead to great fights, and others, well, we just don't care. Build-up is everything that we're given that leads up to the actual fight. This is important because if there's no build-up at all, then we really don't have any investment in the fight. Tension is what a lot of people, unfortunately, confuse with the idea of stakes. Let me just stress that tension does not mean that the fate of the galaxy will be determined by the fight. All it means is that the enemy poses a serious threat, the characters have something or someone to lose, stuff like that. So if any of you say stakes instead of tension, just know I will fight you. Now, the next factor, execution, is a big umbrella term that refers to everything in the actual fight. This consists of elements like choreography, transformations, paneling, the finale, even something like the setting. Finally, the last factor is the impact. Pretty straightforward, but this is just the way in which the ultimate outcome of the fight influences the rest of the story. This can be the other character getting absolutely wrecked, or a worldwide reaction to the fight that leads to a major battle 50 chapters later. Again, that's matchup, build-up, tension, execution, and impact. By all means, let me know in the comments if there's something you think I missed, but this is how I'm going to be talking about fights in this video. With that out of the way, let's actually look at these factors in terms of Robin's fight against Black Maria. First, let's go ahead and talk about the matchup. I don't know about you, but I knew Black Maria would be fighting Robin as soon as we met her. The parallel was just too obvious. Black Maria was this huge figure, yet was suspiciously always on the sidelines before she caught Sanji, so it seemed like she was plotting and hiding what she was really capable of. And of course, we know this is what Robin used to do in Baroque works. She played along as if she was serving Crocodile, but she was just using him to find the poneglyph. Clearly, it was the perfect matchup to have these two crafty women fight each other. So now let's talk about the build-up. The build-up to this fight was of course the epic struggle between Black Maria and Sanji, and I could honestly do an entire video on just this part alone. I mean, first people thought Ivankov was at Onigashima, then Twitter practically exploded when we saw Sanji cry for help like a little bitch. I'm sorry, there's just no nice way to say that. But unlike the mouth breathers who think Oda disrespects his characters, I thought this was a great scene for 2 reasons. First, it shows Sanji's emotional maturity, both for relying on a crewmate after Whole Cake, and for placing his life in Robin's hands, knowing that would mean a lot to her. Second, it sets up Robin's character arc to come full circle from when we first met her as Miss All Sunday, giving us that epic panel where Robin declares that she is a demon. On top of all that, the reveals for Black Maria's abilities are insane. First, she's this massive spider capable of laying all sorts of traps. Then we see her reveal that badass tattoo of hers as well as her bizarre staff that, just so happens to be on fire. If you're a Dark Souls fan, then this should give you major Quelaag vibes. So this fight is obviously set up flawlessly because we as readers are invested in Robin's character arc, as well as Black Maria's menacing new abilities. And hey, if you're an extra big Sanji fan, you probably wanted to see Robin teach Black Maria a lesson or two for hurting her friend. even if he did kinda like it. Now, before we move on to execution, let's quickly address the tension. While it may not have been the single fight to decide the fate of Wano, there was still plenty of tension in this fight. Not only was Black Maria this mysterious and menacing figure, but Robin had a lot to lose. If she was defeated by Black Maria, then Sanji's sacrifice would have been a giant waste of time, and Robin would be subjected to years of torture by the hands of Kaido's crew. So clearly there was a lot at stake going into this fight, which brings us to the execution. And this fight really just does everything right. In classic Wano fashion, some of the fight does take place off-screen, but unlike the growing list of other off-screen fights, this was one of the few, if any, that only off-screened the boring part. Oh, and speaking of things I hate, Robin demonstrates how she's come to accept her tragic past when she instantly recognized the illusion played by Black Maria's minions. So, if nothing else, you came out of this fight knowing that Robin at least had half a brain, unlike a certain group of time-traveling samurai. As the fight continues, we see that this is only one of the many layers to the fight. Robin and Brook run away from Black Maria's minions into another room, only to have Black Maria crash through the wall like a T-Rex in Jurassic Park. Then Robin and Brook have to deal with the Hanyudo staff and its fire. Once they do that, Brook leaves to handle the minions. And in their one-on-one, Robin has to deal with a myriad of different threats, including poison, fire, spiderwebs, and the fact that Black Maria just so happens to throw punches like a freaking debt collector after Super Bowl Sunday. What makes this such a great fight is that it's dynamic. It's got tons of different moving parts and a bunch of different challenges that Robin and Brook have to overcome. So while Robin obviously wins the fight by overpowering her, we also see that it was the result of her thinking on her feet and outmaneuvering all of Black Maria's different traps. You know, kind of like a boss fight in Dark Souls. Sorry, I've read this fight like 50 times now with the Sekiro soundtrack, so the whole Soulsborne thing is kinda stuck in my head. But, of course, the best part of this fight is the dialogue between Robin and Black Maria. Like every bad guy before her, Black Maria claims that Robin is only worth her knowledge and that all she's doing for the Straw Hats is holding them back. In response, Robin more or less ignores her taunting and simply works to live up to Sanji's expectations. And in a poetic fashion, takes on the form of a demon in order to crush Black Maria, showing us not only that Robin has grown from her trauma, but has actually accepted the persona given to her by society, making it her own rather than anyone else's. So the reason this fight is so rewarding for readers is because not only do we get a fast-paced fight that's won with both power and brains, but we also get some real substance that gives us exactly the kind of character growth from Robin that we've been waiting hundreds of chapters for. But this leaves us with the impact of the fight. And as of recording this video, the fight is still pretty fresh, so it's still too early to say just how much influence it will really have. But we can certainly say that this fight had plenty of impact on the current story. As a result of this fight, we saw character growth from both Sanji and Robin, and a confirmation that Robin is still capable of standing on her own against seriously powerful enemies. Of course, this also means that by defeating one of Kaido's Tobiroppo, the Straw Hats are one step closer to saving Wano. While it's still pretty early, this fight clearly has plenty of impact on the raid, and has already given us a new appreciation for some of the Straw Hats. So, having gone through all the important factors, it's clear that Robin vs. Black Maria is as close to a perfect fight as you can get. But at this point, I'm sure you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's a great fight, but is it really the best one we've seen in Wano? And while readers might give more weight to different factors, everyone should come to the same general conclusion once they compare the previous Wano fights to Robin vs. Black Maria. Admittedly, this fight does have its weaknesses. I mean, let's be honest, we all know Robin was going to win this just like the other Tobiroppo fights. So it'd be a stretch to call this fight nerve-wracking. Plus, it's not nearly as hype as something like the rooftop fight or Kaido vs. Big Mom. But looking back, there really weren't too many great fights before Onigashima. We either got small fights like Luffy vs. Hold'em or Sanji vs. Page 1, the notorious off-screened fights, or big clashes where the two characters just whipped out their power levels. And while epic clashes like Roger vs. Whitebeard are hype, they're still only clashes. Then you sorta have those in-betweens like Big Mom vs. Kaido or Kaido vs. Odin, where they were also really hype, but you either didn't see the whole thing or it was over and done with in about 1 page. It's really not until Onigashima where we get our true fights. And while there's obviously a lot of great contenders, Robin vs. Black Maria is just an all-around better fight. Unlike Kiku vs. Kanjuro or the Scabbards vs. Kaido, you follow the fight from beginning to end, with the exception of whatever slap fight Robin was having with herself before the fight really started. And when you look at the other Tobiroppo fights, this one just has way more substance and has a lot more moving parts, not considering whatever the heck Sasaki was doing. Finally, while you could make the argument for Rooftop, Robin vs. Black Maria just gets the edge because it has a more satisfying ending, whereas Rooftop is obviously a much bigger fight but ends with Luffy getting his butt handed to him. And that's why, at least right now, Robin vs. Black Maria is the best fight in Wano. And that's it for this discussion. If you enjoyed this discussion, then make sure to like the video. Don't forget to share your thoughts on Robin vs. Black Maria. And if you'd like more One Piece and other manga discussions like this one, then make sure to subscribe and follow along with each week's video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.